The passenger in the back seat appeared in every photo. I should never have taken that road alone. The trip was simple. A 4-hour drive to my aunt's house for her wedding anniversary, one night staying there and then heading back home the next day. Nothing special. But sometimes I think my entire life started going wrong the moment I stopped at that abandoned gas station in the middle of the highway. It was almost midnight when it started raining. The kind of heavy rain that turns everything outside into blurry shapes on the windshield. The road was practically empty, and my phone had been without signal for almost an hour. That's when I saw the gas station. The lights were off, but the canopy was still standing, and an old vending machine near the entrance was somehow still working. The place looked like it had been abandoned for years. Even so, I pulled over. I needed to rest for a few minutes. I stepped out of the car and felt the cold, rain-soaked wind cut through my jacket as I looked around. The gas pumps were rusted. The convenience store windows had been covered with wooden boards. Everything looked dead, too silent. I bought a bottle of water from the machine and sat on the hood of my car for a few minutes, trying to decide whether to keep driving or wait for the rain to ease up. That's when I heard it. A click. I immediately turned around. The rear passenger door of my car was open. My heart started racing. I was absolutely certain I had locked every door. I stood there staring at the car for several seconds, expecting someone to appear. No one did. The rain continued pouring around the empty station. I swallowed hard and slowly walked toward the open door. The back seat was empty. Completely empty. Even so, a strange chill ran through my body, as if someone had just gotten out of that seat. I quickly shut the door and got back into the car. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe I had forgotten to close it. Maybe the wind had pulled it open. Maybe I was simply too tired. I kept driving. But after that gas station, the feeling that someone was sitting in the back seat never went away. The first photo appeared an hour later. I had stopped at a roadside diner to grab something to eat before continuing my trip. The place was almost empty. Just a truck driver asleep at a table near the television, and a waitress cleaning glasses behind the counter. I ordered coffee. A lot of coffee? Because the strange feeling in the car hadn't gone away. While waiting for my order, I pulled out my phone to distract myself and started deleting some old photos from my gallery. That's when I found the picture. A selfie I had taken at the abandoned gas station. My heart immediately slowed. Because I didn't remember taking that photo, in the image, I was sitting on the hood of my car, holding the bottle of water and looking directly at the camera, and behind me, in the back seat, someone was sitting there. My phone nearly slipped from my hand. I slowly zoomed in. It was difficult to see because of the rain on the window, but there was clearly a silhouette in the back seat. A person, motionless. Watching, my chest started rising and falling rapidly. I immediately looked through the diner's window toward the parking lot. My car was outside, parked, dark, empty, or at least it looked empty. I zoomed in even further. The figure was tall, thin, and there was something wrong with its face, as if it were blurred or hidden in shadow. A terrible chill ran down my spine. Everything okay over there? I nearly jumped out of my chair. The waitress had approached with my coffee. I forced a nervous laugh. Yeah, just tired. She glanced briefly at my phone screen, and her smile disappeared. My blood instantly turned cold. What is it? I asked. The woman remained silent for a few seconds. Then she quietly asked, Where did you take that photo? My heart started beating faster. At an abandoned gas station a few miles from here. She went pale, very pale, and slowly took a step back. You should keep driving. I frowned. What? The waitress looked at the photo again, then at me, and whispered something that made my stomach drop. He hitchhikes with people who stop at that station. I stared at the waitress without knowing how to respond. She immediately noticed the way I was looking at her and sighed, like someone who had already said too much. Listen, just forget about it, okay? She said quickly. But it was already too late. What did you mean by he hitchhikes? She glanced around the empty diner before answering. People around here avoid that road at night. That doesn't answer my question. The woman pressed her lips together nervously. Then she pulled out a chair and sat across from me. Some drivers started reporting strange things after stopping at that gas station. My heart started racing again. Like what? She hesitated. Photos. I felt my blood run cold. The waitress discreetly pointed at my phone. They say he always appears in photographs first. I immediately looked back at the image. The figure was still there, motionless in the back seat. The horrible feeling in my chest grew stronger. Who is he? The woman slowly shook her head. No one knows for sure. Is this some kind of roadside legend? She didn't answer right away, and that frightened me more than any answer could have. Then she finally spoke. About 15 years ago, there was an accident on that road. At that exact moment, the old television in the diner crackled loudly, making me jump. The waitress lowered her voice. A man disappeared after his car crashed near the gas station. They never found his body. And people think he became a ghost? She looked directly into my eyes. People think that anyone who gives him a ride never reaches their destination. The silence between us felt heavy. I forced a nervous laugh, trying to ease the tension. Do you actually believe that? The woman slowly looked out the diner's window, toward my car. Then she asked, "Did you check the back seat after you took the photo?" My heart stopped for a second, because no, I hadn't really checked. I had just slammed the door shut at the gas station and driven away. The waitress slowly stood up. Leave before the rain gets worse. Wait! She immediately cut me off. And no matter what you hear coming from the back seat, she swallowed hard. Don't look in the rearview mirror. I left the diner trying to convince myself that it was all just some stupid small-town story. A legend. Nothing more. But my hands were shaking as I unlocked the car. The rain was still pouring. The parking lot was completely empty now. Even the truck driver had left. For a few seconds, I stood outside staring at the back seat through the dark window. There was nobody there. I took a deep breath. You're getting paranoid, I muttered to myself. I got into the car quickly and slammed the door shut. The sound seemed far too loud in the silence of the road. I started the engine. The radio crackled by itself for a few seconds before returning to normal. And immediately I remembered the waitress's warning. Don't look in the rearview mirror. I let out a nervous laugh. It was ridiculous. I was 26 years old, not 12. I wasn't going to let a ghost story scare me. So I looked directly into the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty. I felt immediate relief. See? Nothing. I started driving again. But something still felt wrong. Very wrong. Because even while looking at the empty back seat, I still felt someone there. Like a presence. A silent weight behind me. The road was practically deserted now. Only distant headlights occasionally appeared on the opposite side of the highway. I tried to focus on the music playing on the radio. On the rain. On anything that could distract me. That's when I heard it. A faint sound. Right behind me. Like someone breathing. My entire body froze. I immediately looked at the rearview mirror. Nothing. The back seat was still empty. But the sound came again. Closer this time. A slow, deep breath. My heart started pounding so hard it hurt. Is someone there? I asked without thinking. Silence answered. And then the radio turned off by itself. The road sank into absolute silence. Only the rain hitting the car remained. And the breathing behind me. Slow, steady. Cold sweat ran down the back of my neck. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my fingers began to ache. Then something appeared in the rearview mirror. First a shadow, then 2 eyes. My blood froze. Someone was sitting in the back seat now, motionless, staring directly at my reflection. I slammed on the brakes so hard that the car nearly spun out on the wet road. The tires skidded violently. The vehicle came to a stop, sideways on the shoulder while my heart felt like it was about to burst out of my chest. I immediately turned around. The back seat was empty. Completely empty. My breathing came fast and uneven. No, no, no! I ran my hands over my face, trying to calm myself down. I was tired, scared, paranoid. That was all. I looked into the rearview mirror again. Nothing. But then I noticed something else. The rear passenger door was slightly open. My blood ran cold. I was absolutely certain it had been locked. I got out of the car immediately under the heavy rain. The freezing water soaked through my clothes within seconds as I slowly walked toward the open door. The inside of the car was dark, silent, but something was different now. The back seat was wet, as if someone completely drenched had just been sitting there. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I immediately stepped back. Then I heard a truck honking in the distance. Its headlights swept across the road for a brief moment. And in that second, I saw a silhouette standing on the other side of the highway. Tall, motionless, watching my car. The truck's lights passed too quickly for me to see clearly. But I was absolutely sure of one thing. The figure was wearing dark clothes, completely soaked by the rain. As soon as the truck disappeared, so did the figure. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to get back into the car and leave. That was exactly what I did. I slammed the door shut, locked everything, and accelerated without looking back. The rain was getting worse and worse. The windshield wipers could barely keep up. Then my phone vibrated on the passenger seat. Unknown number. New message. He hates it when people look at him through the rearview mirror. My entire body went cold. My hands started shaking on the steering wheel. I replied immediately. Who is this? The 3 dots appeared on the screen, disappeared, appeared again. Then the reply arrived. Because that's how he died. I stared at the message, unable to breathe properly. The road seemed even darker now. More empty, as if the entire world had disappeared beyond my headlights. Because that's how he died. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I immediately replied, Who are you? The response took several seconds. Far too long. Then my phone vibrated again. You need to get off the road before 2:13. My heart started racing. I immediately looked at the clock on the dashboard. 1:47 a.m. A horrible feeling began growing in my chest. I typed quickly, What are you talking about? This time the reply came almost instantly. He always kills at the same time. My blood turned completely cold. Before I could respond again, the radio turned on by itself. A horrible burst of static exploded through the speakers. I nearly lost control of the steering wheel. Then I heard a voice within the static. Low. Distorted, like someone speaking underwater. Look, behind... My entire body locked up. I immediately turned the radio off. But the voice continued, now coming from the back seat. Look, behind... The breathing returned. Closer. Heavier. I felt something lightly touch the back of my seat. I nearly jumped out of the car. Stop! I shouted. Silence. Only rain. My vision started blurring from panic. I needed to get off that road. I needed to find someone. Anyone. That's when I saw a sign partially illuminated by my headlights. Blue Valley Motel. 2 kilometers. I didn't even think. I immediately turned the wheel toward the entrance. The dirt road was practically flooded. But I kept driving as fast as I could until the motel finally emerged through the rain. Only a few lights were on. It looked old, but still operating. I stopped the car so suddenly I almost crashed into the reception area. I ran through the rain and shoved open the glass door. The place was empty, except for an old man sitting behind the counter watching television. He slowly raised his eyes when he saw me walk in. And the first thing he asked made my blood freeze. You stopped at that gas station, didn't you? I froze in the motel entrance. Rain pounded against the windows while the old man watched me from behind the counter. There was no surprise in his eyes, only concern. My heart was still racing. How do you know that? I asked. The old man slowly sighed and turned off the television. The silence inside the motel became even worse. Because you're not the first person to show up here like this. I swallowed hard. Like what? He glanced briefly toward the parking lot outside. Toward my car, then quietly asked, Has he appeared in the back seat yet? The cold I felt at that moment nearly made me lose my balance. I couldn't answer, but I think my face answered for me. The old man closed his eyes for a second, as if confirming the worst. What time is it? He asked. I immediately looked at my phone. 2:01 a.m. 2:01. The old man turned pale, very pale. Then he stood up far too quickly for someone his age. Listen carefully. You can't keep driving. What? After 2:13, he stops appearing only in photographs. My blood turned completely cold. The old man hurried out from behind the counter. Come with me. Wait, what are you talking about? He opened a side door behind the reception desk. If you're alone inside that car after 2:13, he gets in. My breath caught in my throat. I looked through the motel window. My car was still parked outside in the rain. Dark. Silent. But then, the interior light turned on by itself. My heart nearly stopped. The silhouette was there again, sitting in the back seat, motionless, Watching the motel reception area, I immediately took a step backward. The old man grabbed my arm. Don't look at him for too long. But it was already too late, because the figure moved. Slowly, its head tilted slightly to one side, as if it had realized I could finally see it clearly. Then my phone vibrated in my pocket. Another message from the unknown number. Keep the doors locked. I quickly looked back at the car. The silhouette remained motionless. Then the vehicle's locks started moving up and down by themselves. Click, click, click. The old man began quietly praying under his breath. And that's when I noticed something horrifying. The figure in the back seat was smiling. His smile didn't look human. Even through the rain and the car window, I could tell there was something deeply wrong with that face. The mouth was too wide, too still, like an old photograph trying to imitate a human expression. The locks continued moving up and down by themselves. Click, click, click. My heart felt like it was about to explode. Who is he? I asked the motel owner. The old man never took his eyes off the car. His name was Augusto Vieira. The rain intensified violently outside. The man continued. 15 years ago, he disappeared on that road after hitchhiking with someone. I frowned immediately. Wait, I thought he was the driver. The old man looked at me, and his silence answered before his words did. My blood turned cold. He was the passenger. I looked back at the car. The figure remained seated in the back seat, smiling, motionless. The driver who picked him up lost control of the car during the storm, the old man continued. The vehicle crashed near the gas station. My breathing became uneven. And they never found his body? The man slowly shook his head. They only found the driver. My stomach dropped. Then I heard another sound, coming from the parking lot. Tap, tap, tap. I froze immediately. The figure was tapping on the car window. Slowly, with what looked like fingers that were far too long, the old man grabbed my arm tightly. Don't go outside. My phone vibrated again. Another message. He wants you to look directly at him. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. Why? Several seconds passed. Then the reply appeared. Because once you see his face, he can come in. My entire body went cold. I immediately looked back toward the car. And at that exact moment, the figure vanished from the back seat. My heart stopped. Where is he? The old man turned pale instantly. Then he slowly pointed at something behind me. I felt the blood drain from my body because I heard breathing, very close to the back of my neck, inside the motel reception area. My entire body locked up. The breathing behind me was slow, wet, far too close. The motel owner immediately let go of my hand and stepped back several paces. His eyes were wide with pure terror. Don't turn around, he whispered. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. The breathing continued behind my head, almost touching me. I smelled something strange. Stagnant water, rust, and something rotten. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my legs refused to obey. Then I heard a voice. Low, dragging, like someone speaking with lungs full of water. You looked... Tears began forming involuntarily in my eyes from pure panic. The motel owner started desperately searching for something behind the counter. Don't answer him, he shouted. The wet voice came again, closer. I just wanted to get home. My blood froze. Because in that moment, the voice didn't sound monstrous. It sounded sad, lonely, almost human. I felt something cold slowly touch my shoulder. I nearly collapsed. The motel owner finally found what he was looking for. An old crucifix attached to a chain. He immediately lifted it toward whatever was behind me. Get out of here! The reception lights began flickering violently. The temperature dropped drastically. Then I heard a horrible sound. A deep gurgling, like someone drowning. The touch disappeared from my shoulder instantly. I ran forward without thinking. Only then did I have the courage to look back, and I regretted it immediately. The figure was standing in the middle of the reception area. Tall, skinny, its clothes completely soaked. Water dripped from its entire body, forming puddles on the floor. But the face, my God, the face looked destroyed, twisted, like someone crushed by water and darkness for years. The eyes were too sunken, black, and the mouth was open in an impossible smile. The crucifix began trembling in the old man's hand. The creature slowly tilted its head toward me and spoke in that wet voice again. "You have space in the back seat," as... The motel owner began praying out loud. His hands were shaking so badly that the crucifix nearly slipped from his grasp. The creature remained standing in the middle of the reception area, motionless, smiling. Water dripped from its body, forming small dark puddles across the floor. My heart felt like it was about to stop. Then the clock behind the counter struck 2:13. The lights went out immediately. The entire motel was swallowed by darkness. I heard the old man scream. Then a wet sound moving across the floor. And then, silence. My entire body froze. The only thing I could hear was my own frantic breathing. And another breath. Much closer. Right in front of me. The lights flickered for a second. That was enough. The creature was only inches away from me now, its ruined face almost touching mine. Water dripped from its soaked hair onto the floor, and those black eyes stared at me without blinking. The lights went out again. I screamed and stumbled backward, knocking over a chair. My phone fell to the floor, partially illuminating the reception area. The glow from the screen trembled. That's when I noticed something horrifying. There were no wet footprints on the floor, even though water was pouring from its body, as if that thing never truly touched the ground. The old man reappeared behind the counter holding an old shotgun. "Get down!" I threw myself to the floor immediately. Bang! The shot exploded through the reception area. The glass in the front door shattered, but the creature didn't seem hurt. In fact, it hadn't even moved. The old man turned pale. "No, no!" The creature slowly turned its face toward him, and then smiled even wider. The reception television turned on by itself at that exact moment. Nothing but static. But within the noise, an image appeared. A wrecked car at the bottom of a river. My blood ran cold, because I recognized the car. It was mine. The creature slowly pointed toward the television, then turned its black eyes back to me, and whispered, "You already crashed the car." The world seemed to stop. I stared at the television, trying to understand what I was seeing. My car, destroyed, upside down in a dark river, rain falling onto the water exactly as it had on that road. My heart slowed dramatically. This isn't real." The creature continued staring at me, smiling. Then it took another step toward me. Without a sound, without footprints, as if it were simply gliding across the floor. "You never left the road." My breathing began to fail. The old man held the shotgun with trembling hands. "Don't listen to him. Ghosts like to confuse people." But something inside me began to break in that moment, because I couldn't remember arriving at the motel. My blood turned cold. I tried to recall the road after leaving the diner, but everything felt blurred. Confused. Rain. Headlights. The breathing in the back seat. Then, nothing. The creature slowly tilted its head, as if it knew exactly what I was thinking. "You saw the river?" Images suddenly exploded into my mind. My car skidding, the rearview mirror, its face appearing behind me, and then a blinding flash of headlights coming from the opposite direction. I immediately fell to my knees. "No." The old man looked desperately between me and the creature. "Don't believe it!" But I could already feel the truth crawling through my chest. The creature pointed toward the motel door. Outside, there was no longer any rain. My heart started racing, because the storm had simply vanished. Everything was far too quiet. The empty road now seemed covered in fog. The television continued showing my car sinking into the river, slowly, deeper and deeper. Then my phone vibrated again on the floor. Another message from the unknown number. With trembling hands, I picked it up. The message contained only one sentence. "He doesn't want to be alone." I stared at the message, unable to breathe. "He doesn't want to be alone." The creature remained standing in the middle of the reception area, watching, waiting, as if it knew I was beginning to understand. The old man snatched the phone from my hand. He read the message and turned pale. "No." "What is it?" I asked. He took several seconds to answer. Then he looked directly at me. This isn't the first time I've seen this. My heart started racing. "What?" The messages. Silence filled the reception area. Even the creature seemed to be paying attention. The man pressed his lips together. All the victims received messages. My blood ran cold, Victims? Yes. The television behind him continued showing the car sinking. The same car. My car. Who sends the messages? The old man looked away. Nobody knows. My phone vibrated again. A new message. Ask him about his daughter. The motel owner froze instantly. My heart nearly stopped. What do you mean? The color completely drained from his face. No. Who is your daughter? The old man began trembling. The creature's smile widened even further, as if it was enjoying the conversation. The man finally answered. She disappeared 8 years ago. The silence became suffocating. On that road? I asked. He slowly nodded. She stopped at that gas station. My blood froze. My phone vibrated again. Tell him to look at the photo. I frowned. What photo? The old man closed his eyes, like a man who had finally been defeated. Then he pulled an old wallet from his pocket, slowly opened it, and handed me a photograph. It showed a smiling young woman standing beside a car. She couldn't have been more than 18, but she wasn't what made my heart stop. It was the back seat, because a silhouette was sitting there. The same one. The same passenger. The same smile. The photo slipped from my hand. The creature began making a horrible gurgling sound. It sounded like laughter. Then it took another step toward me. She stayed with me. The old man raised the shotgun again, but now there were tears in his eyes. Shut up. The creature tilted its head. You never came looking... Bang. The shot exploded through the reception area. But just like before, it made no difference. The creature didn't even blink. It simply kept staring at me. Then it said something that made my blood freeze completely. He isn't alive either. The gunshot was still ringing in my ears, but I could only stare at the creature. He isn't alive either. The old man stood motionless. The shotgun slowly slipped from his hands. My heart started racing. What is he talking about? The man didn't answer. He simply stared at the floor. Tears silently ran down his wrinkled face. Answer me! The creature's smile grew even wider, like someone watching exactly what they wanted happen. The old man took a deep breath, then finally spoke. I died 8 years ago. The world seemed to stop. What? My voice barely came out as a whisper. He slowly raised his eyes, and in that moment I noticed something I should have seen long ago. The motel was too empty, too old, too abandoned. Like the gas station, like the road, like everything that night. My daughter disappeared on that road, he said. I spent years looking for her. The man looked at the photograph lying on the floor, until one day I found that picture. My blood ran cold. And then, he let out a bitter laugh. A sad one. Then I stopped at the gas station. The silence that followed was unbearable. Because I already knew. The creature knew. He knew. And now I knew too. You never left, I whispered. The old man slowly nodded. The television continued showing the car sinking. My car. My accident. My death. My stomach twisted. The creature moved closer. Now it was only a few feet away. We are the same... I immediately shook my head. No! But my own memories began betraying me. The flash of headlights. The skid. The river. Water pouring through the windows. The panic. This time the memories came back completely. Without gaps. Without doubt. And I finally remembered. I never reached the motel. I never left the road. I never survived the crash. The air vanished from my lungs. The creature slowly stretched out its hand toward me. Water dripped from its long fingers. Come with me! Then my phone vibrated one last time. A new message. The final one. When I looked at the screen, my heart nearly stopped. Because the sender finally had a name. It was my own phone number. I stared at the phone screen, unable to move. My own number. My own name. Listed as the sender. My hands began to shake. I slowly opened the message. There was only one sentence. You can still go back. My heart started racing. The creature immediately changed expression. For the first time since it had appeared, the smile vanished. The old man's eyes widened. That's impossible. What does that mean? I asked. But he looked just as confused as I was. My phone vibrated again. A new message. He lies to those trapped between both sides. I immediately looked at the creature. It was no longer smiling. Now it looked angry. almost desperate. My blood ran cold, because it was the first human emotion I had seen on its face. A third message arrived. Remember the impact. I involuntarily closed my eyes, and the memories came, complete, this time without interruption. I saw the exact moment of the crash. The creature's face appearing in the rearview mirror. My panic. The skid. The headlights. The guardrail breaking apart. The car plunging into the river. Water flooding everything. The cold. The terror. And then, I remembered something I hadn't seen before. A hand. Someone trying to pull me out of the car. My heart skipped a beat. Someone had been there. Someone real, trying to save me. I immediately opened my eyes. The creature took a step backward, as if it didn't want me to remember. Who pulled me out of the car? Silence. The old man stared at me. The creature continued backing away. Another message arrived. You didn't die in the crash. My entire body froze. The creature began making that horrible gurgling sound, but now it sounded like rage, pure hatred. Another message. You are in a coma. The entire world fell silent. The motel. The road. The television. Everything. My heart pounded violently. No. The creature suddenly lunged forward. Don't listen! It was the first time I had heard it speak without that slow, dragging voice, and that terrified me more than anything else, because it meant it was afraid. Afraid that I might believe the messages. My phone vibrated one last time. A single word appeared on the screen. Wake up. Wake up. The word remained on the phone screen. Simple. Direct. But for some reason, it felt more real than anything I had experienced that entire night. The creature moved forward immediately. Water began pouring from its body more heavily. Its distorted face twisted into an expression of pure desperation. No! Its voice echoed throughout the entire reception area. The windows shook. The lights began flickering. But now I understood. It wasn't trying to kill me. It was trying to keep me there. With it, my chest tightened, because for the first time I could see something beyond the monster. Loneliness. A terrible, unbearable loneliness. 15 years alone on that road. 15 years searching for someone so it wouldn't have to remain alone. The old man watched everything in silence, as if he had known all along what was happening. My phone vibrated again. A new message. He cannot cross over alone. I looked at the creature. It was standing still now, its black eyes fixed on me. Its expression seemed broken, sad, almost human. You want me to stay? I whispered. The creature didn't answer, but it didn't have to, because I already knew. It didn't want company. It needed it. The road, the gas station, the photographs, the victims. Everything made sense now. It found people trapped between life and death, people in comas, people who were lost, and convinced them to stay, because if they gave up on waking up, it wouldn't have to be alone. Tears began forming in my eyes. The creature watched without moving. Then it spoke softly. I don't want to go back alone. My chest tightened painfully, because there was no cruelty in those words, only pain, a lot of pain. The old man lowered his head, like someone listening to something too sad to bear. My phone vibrated again. You need to choose now. The lights began fading. The reception area became unstable, like a dream falling apart. The walls trembled. The television flickered. The road outside slowly disappeared into the fog. The creature stretched out its hand toward me. My phone vibrated once more. Either wake up. The creature continued waiting. Then the final message appeared, or stay with him forever. Wake up. The word remained on the phone screen. Simple. Direct. But for some reason, it felt more real than anything I had experienced that entire night. The creature moved forward immediately. Water began pouring from its body more heavily. Its distorted face twisted into an expression of pure desperation. No! Its voice echoed throughout the entire reception area. The windows shook. The lights began flickering. But now I understood. It wasn't trying to kill me. It was trying to keep me there. With it, my chest tightened, because for the first time I could see something beyond the monster. Loneliness. A terrible, unbearable loneliness. 15 years alone on that road. 15 years searching for someone so it wouldn't have to remain alone. The old man watched everything in silence, as if he had known all along what was happening. My phone vibrated again. A new message. He cannot cross over alone. I looked at the creature. It was standing still now, its black eyes fixed on me. Its expression seemed broken, sad, almost human. "You want me to stay?" I whispered. The creature didn't answer, but it didn't have to, because I already knew. It didn't want company. It needed it. The road, the gas station, the photographs, the victims. Everything made sense now. It found people trapped between life and death, people in comas, people who were lost, and convinced them to stay, because if they gave up on waking up, it wouldn't have to be alone. Tears began forming in my eyes. The creature watched without moving. Then it spoke softly. "I don't want to go back alone." My chest tightened painfully, because there was no cruelty in those words. Only pain. A lot of pain. The old man lowered his head, like someone listening to something too sad to bear. My phone vibrated again. "You need to choose now." The lights began fading. The reception area became unstable, like a dream falling apart. The walls trembled. The television flickered. The road outside slowly disappeared into the fog. The creature stretched out its hand toward me. My phone vibrated once more. "Either wake up." The creature continued waiting. Then the final message appeared, "or stay with him forever." The light slowly grew behind me. Warm, gentle, real. It was the first thing that had felt truly alive since all of this began. The motel had almost completely disappeared. Only fragments of walls remained, floating in the fog. The old man was gone. The road was gone too. Now there was only me, the creature, and the light. My heart felt heavy, because I knew what would happen when I crossed through it. Maybe I would never see that creature again. Maybe it would return to the road. Alone, as it always had been. The drenched figure remained standing before me. But something had changed. Its face looked different. Less deformed. Less monstrous. As if little by little I was finally seeing who it had once been. An ordinary man. Scared. Lost. Trapped. "What was your name?" I asked. The creature remained silent, as if trying to remember. For a few seconds I thought it wouldn't answer. Then I heard, "Augusto." For the first time, it didn't sound like a monster speaking. It sounded like a person. Tears began running down his face, mixing with the water. I never wanted to stay here. My chest tightened. "I know." Augusto looked at the light behind me, then back at me, and asked something that broke my heart. "Do you think anyone still remembers me?" The silence between us was painful, because I didn't know. 15 years had passed. Maybe his parents were no longer alive. Maybe his friends had moved on. Maybe nobody was still looking for him. But that wasn't what he was really asking. He wanted to know if his life still mattered to someone. I took a deep breath and answered honestly, "Yes." Augusto closed his eyes, and for the first time since I met him, he seemed relieved. The light behind me grew stronger. My body began to feel lighter, very light, as if something was pulling me back. The moment had arrived. Augusto took a small step backward, then pointed toward the light. "Go." My throat tightened. "And you?" He looked around at the fog, then gave a faint smile. "Maybe. I'm tired of waiting too." The light became too bright to look at. I closed my eyes and started walking. Then I heard his voice one last time. "Thank you for not leaving me alone in the end." Oh, the light surrounded me completely. There was no more road, no more motel, no more rain, only a strange feeling of warmth and distance. Then I began hearing voices, at first very far away, then closer and closer. "Blood pressure is stabilizing. He's responding. Call the doctor." My heart started racing. I slowly opened my eyes. The light above me was too bright. White. Artificial. It took me several seconds to understand. Hospital. I was in a hospital. Tubes. Monitors. Machines. The smell of medicine in the air. Everything felt unreal. A nurse dropped her clipboard when she realized I was awake. My God. People rushed into the room. Doctors. Nurses. Voices everywhere. But I could barely hear them, because my eyes were searching for something else. The window. Outside it was raining. My heart immediately tightened. For a moment, I thought I would see a silhouette standing on the other side of the glass. But there was no one there. Only rain. Normal. Ordinary. Real. 2 days later, I learned what had happened. My car really had skidded that night. I had crashed into a river near the highway. A truck driver witnessed the accident and called for help. The doctor said I had been in a coma for almost 3 weeks. 3 weeks. While for me, everything had happened in a single night. Months passed. My recovery was slow. But it happened. I went back home. I went back to driving. I went back to living. But I could never forget, not the road, not the motel, not Augusto. Sometimes I search for his name online. Augusto Vieira, missing for 15 years. Never found. Exactly as the story said. 1 year after the accident, I made a decision. I returned to that road. During the day, with sunshine. No rain. I found the abandoned gas station. It was still there. Old, silent, as if time itself had forgotten that place. I stood there watching it for several minutes. Then I left something on the rusted hood of one of the fuel pumps. A photograph. It was a picture of me leaving the hospital. On the back, I wrote only, "I made it home. Thank you." I stood there in silence for a few seconds. Then I turned to leave. But before getting into my car, something caught my attention. A puddle of water near the gas station,